To start the story, here is some context. I work in a small rural school and live in a duplex owned by the school division I work for. They don't reserve the school-owned housing for staff, but staff does get first dibs. My boyfriend and I, who were both born and raised and work in this small community, have been living in this house for 3 years. Okay, now for the story. In September, we got new neighbors on the other side of our duplex. They looked like a sweet old couple and did not work for the school division. They appear to be in their 80s. They got the house because it was empty and no other staff needed it. For 3 months, we tried to introduce ourselves to them. Every time we were outside at the same time, we would try to say hi, and they would always hurry into their house without saying anything back. Now to the end of March, and we still haven't met our neighbors. However, we have recently learned from the other people that met them that our neighbors are retired and moved here from a few provinces away. They have recently moved their adult son, who's in his 50s, in with them as well. Apparently, they moved here because God called them to this community because we're a bunch of sinners that need to be saved. Now, mind you, at this point, it's all rumors. We have stopped trying to introduce ourselves, but are still being very courteous neighbors. We don't listen to loud music, we make sure our TV is never too loud, and we make sure after 10 p.m. that we don't make any loud noises. Now to April. Just before Easter, I got an email from our landlord saying he needs us to call him as soon as we can. My boyfriend and I both come home for lunch that day so that we can call him together, and our landlord tells us something wild. He says our neighbors came into his office and told him we are doing and cooking meth in our house. They say there is a smell, and they didn't know what it was at first, but their pastor came over one day and told them the smell was meth. How does a pastor know? Our landlord says they told him they could only smell it on Fridays and Saturday, and theorizes we don't do it Sunday because we need Sunday to sober up for work. They tell him that they are worried about a fire hazard. They think we are making the drug and don't feel safe. He says his wife is moving out because she's worried about being poisoned from the smell. Our landlord, having known us for a long time, does not believe them. Also, we are not home on Friday and Saturday. We both work second jobs on the weekend. You try to calm them down and tell them it's not anything to worry about. They get upset and threaten to call the cops. So our landlord has warned us all about this and tells us to just be prepared in case the police do show up. And he advised us to let the police into our home to look around and see we have nothing to hide. Now to the present, May. There has been no police show up at our house. We have not seen our neighbors in weeks, and we believe they are almost never home because there are never any vehicles there. We have stopped being the nice neighbors and do not worry about how loud our TV is or if we make loud noises at night. A bit petty of us, but what would you do if your neighbors were trying to get you kicked out? Today, I get another email from my landlord saying he needs me to call him. He says my neighbors claim that the husband is in the hospital and the doctors have found traces of meth in his system, and they want us evicted immediately. Again, our landlord doesn't believe them and tells them not to worry, but to make them feel better, he is coming to tour both of our places next week. My boyfriend and I have both offered to provide drug tests to our landlord to show the neighbors. They will obviously be negative for everything. This has been absolutely insane. This couple comes into a small community and tries to spread lies about a family who has been here for over 20 years, me and my boyfriend. No one in our town believes them, and it has become a joke at both of our places at work. To clarify a few points. It wasn't their pastor who came over, it was their son who goes by the nickname Pastor Pete. Not his real name, but another P name, to keep up the alliteration. He claimed he came over for supper and smelled it, which means they are trying to hide that their son lives with them. This neighbor claims we are selling the drugs we cook to the kids at the school I work at. How industrious. They are pointing the blame mostly at my boyfriend, and the reason they claim it's him is because he wears a hoodie a lot. And apparently that's a sign of a drug addict. Does this take place in the town that Hot Fuzz happened in? Apparently they feel bad for me getting caught up in the boyfriend's mess. They claim they know we're cooking it because they see yellow smoke coming from our back door. My boyfriend quit smoking cigarettes 7 months ago, but we do have a smoker on our back deck, but that's white smoke, not yellow. And now is where it gets even more crazy. They are now threatening to sue our landlord for attempted murder. Jesus Christ. Not the school division, our landlord specifically. They claim they have the grounds to do this because in the Renters Act, it supposedly claims that if the landlord is informed of illegal drugs use on the property, they have 48 hours to evict the tenants. However, they don't have any proof, so our landlord didn't have to evict us. But yeah, they're trying to sue our landlord for attempted murder. We have caught them in multiple lies regarding their story, so we know for a fact that they're just making this up. The first lie we caught them in was the doctor's visit with the talk screen showing meth in our neighbor's system. The landlord has asked to see it for proof, and they have refused to show him, which makes us think they don't have one at all. We also had no police visit, and you think they would have sent police here to try to prove their story of meth in their system coming from us, and not them doing it. The next lie was that they told our landlord that they filed a police report about us, but we have again seen no cops, and when our landlord tried to ask them for the report, they refused to share it. So he called the police station and they said no report has been made. He clarified that they would have to share it with him as the landlord. And the last lie was that they told him they refused to enter the house without hazmat suits, yet I saw them going in and out of the house twice this weekend without the suits. We also learned that a cease and desist does not need to come from a lawyer, so we have written one up and will be delivering it to them today. They aren't home, so we will just stick it in their door. We hope that this is the end of it, and hopefully they will get sick of living here and move. But if they do complain again, we have been advised by our landlord to call the non-emergency number of the local RCMP and ask them to come do a search of the house, and then go to the neighbors and tell them the house is all clear, because they might respect someone with a badge. Alfreezer's note, I would also perhaps encourage the RCMP to do a search of the neighbor's house, just to make sure the smell's not coming from there. Although, let's be honest, there is no smell. 2. I live in a large property with a small house in the front. There are many small hot springs in the semi-rural mountain area that I live in, with many used by homeowners in their backyard. Many are piped indoors, but some have hot tubs built around them. I happen to have an active one in my backyard. Picture an in-ground hot tub being fed in from the hot spring. Near my left neighbor's house, my crazy neighbor, a small stream runs through the far backyards on the neighborhood and is used for gardens and little nature areas that everyone on the street enjoys. I have my small fruit and pepper garden watered by this stream and take really good care of it. For some visualization, it has a good amount of water flowing down, and everyone on the street uses it some way. My right neighbor, who's a really chill dude, Jay, has small pools he made that are fed by the stream, and 2 neighbors down has a garden similar to mine. Now on to the actual story. When I bought the house, the previous owners were sued by the crazy neighbor, her claiming that the land was rightfully hers. I don't know the details of her argument, but it was thrown out as far as I know. The previous owners warned me of her and not to engage with her family. When I moved in, her kids, I'd say probably 8, 9, and 10, brought over cookies and welcomed me to the neighborhood. I thought that the previous neighbor was exaggerating as they seemed sweet. I invited crazy neighbor and her family to a small barbecue and they accepted. The second they got in the house, crazy neighbor started to explain the rules of the neighborhood. I thought it was pretty normal, like not to play loud music after 9, keep your car in the driveway to keep the street uncluttered, etc., common sense rules, until she got to some rules regarding the stream and the hot springs. She said that kids were not allowed in all parts of the stream in private backyards, and that everyone could use each other's hot springs. I have the only hot spring on the street, so I was surprised by that. I interrupted her, and told her that I wasn't comfortable with those, and she scoffed, saying that all neighbors were fine with it. I told her that I still wasn't comfortable with it. She ignored me, continuing with some questionable rules. The rest of the night was fine, but I felt like I wouldn't want to do it again. I talked to some neighbors across the next couple of days, who all told me to stay clear of her and that her rules were BS. I went over to her house and told her that I had talked to the other neighbors, and that I wasn't comfortable with anyone being in my backyard without my permission. She scoffed and said okay. I had lunch with Jay and he told me who she was. A serial suer with her lawyer on speed dial to get whatever she wants. She has sued a small pizza chain place in town into debt for having peanut oil on her pizza when she was allergic to it. The chain didn't even have peanut oil, and many people in the small community believed that she put it on. But still lost everything. I decided not to ever talk to her or her family. A week later, I got home from the grocery store to see her kids, entitled kids, splashing in my hot spring tub. It's outside, and usually has a lid on that two small kids would definitely not be able to take off, as it is heavy and large. I tell them that they are not allowed in it, and to leave my yard immediately. And they stand their ground, telling me that their mom told them that it was theirs and that they could use it. I told them that's not true and to leave now. They finally do. Before you think that I'm an a-hole for that, no, not at all, it's your property. Remember that pools and hot tubs are dangerous and I don't want to be liable. I headed back out to buy locks for my gates. When I got back, crazy neighbor was now there, demanding why I kicked her kids out. She reminded me of the rules, but I told her to leave immediately and that my security camera was recording. She cursed at me for a minute or two, then left. I was bluffing as I did not have security cameras, but I did order them on Amazon that night. Damn right. The next day was fine, replanting a lot of my plants from my apartment's balcony into the empty garden, the one that's watered by the stream. I noticed that crazy neighbor kept looking over the fence. For the following weeks, crazy neighbor complained about my trees in my yard, the color of the fence, what I'm doing with the stream, etc. Jay occasionally came over and told her to F off. 3 weeks ago, I left for a couple of days for a friend's wedding. I kept getting security alerts saying that there was motion in my backyard, often her kids playing in my garden, trampling my dear shishito peppers. I texted Jay to tell them to get out. If you're wondering why not call the police, they wouldn't do anything as they're just some kids. I had a suspicion that crazy neighbor was telling them to do these things, and I didn't have much evidence. On the drive back, I got a security alert that there was motion in my backyard. I didn't check as I was driving at the time, but when I stopped for gas, I checked and saw the crazy neighbor instructing a plumbing team installing piping from my hot spring into their yard. I had it save all the footage and I sent messages to Jay about it. Jay told them that they weren't allowed to be doing that, but since it wasn't his house, they didn't listen to him. I called the police and they went, but they had already installed the piping. The team was just leaving through the gate, with a broken lock on the ground, when the police showed up. They said that they had been hired by the homeowner, and they didn't verify that she was the homeowner. Good job. The police waited for me to get there while talking to the team of workers, and I told them that I was the homeowner and that I hadn't paid them to do it. They looked confused. I went with the police into the backyard and started ripping the unsecured piping out with a crowbar. Crazy neighbor starts shrieking from her backyard and puts her head over the fence and starts yelling that I'm destroying private property. On your own property? And that she would sue me. She then says that she has a contract with the owner of the house to have my hot spring water. The police are now confused. She shows a contract that read that she was paying me $2 per month in exchange for the water. Crazy neighbor won't give it to me, so I could look at it, besides waving it around in the air. The police eventually leave and warn me not to destroy the piping. I ripped up the small pipe that connects to the source and she's telling me that she'll see me in court. I contacted my lawyer and she said that crazy neighbor had no case, as she didn't know my signature and it would be easy to prove it was forged. I still haven't been served by crazy neighbor's lawyer, but know that I will soon. In the meantime, I've been sitting in the hot tub for long baths while talking to myself loudly about how much I love it. Petty, but it made me feel good hearing the growls from across the fence. This is the final thing that made me post this. My garden wilting and dying at an unnatural rate. I heard a commotion out in crazy neighbor's yard, and I peeked over and I saw her slowly pouring a massive jug of chemicals into the communal stream, which goes down to mine. I don't know if it's herbicides, plant killer, or something like bleach. It doesn't smell like bleach, so I don't think it's that. But it's rapidly killing my plants. I haven't eaten any of the fruit or peppers since I'm worried I might get sick. I think that if I can get definitive proof of her doing it, I can maybe use it in court to prove how crazy she is. People swim in pools from the stream, so I warned Jay not to for the time being and told him to tell others. I know one neighbor removed her garden from the soil and moved it away from the stream just in case it got down to hers. I'm unsure of what I should do next. I don't think I live in a two-party consent state for video recording, as it doesn't list it as one on the PDF I found. Update. Jay offered to use a large drum in his garage to temporarily remove the water from the stream, and seeing the comments on Reddit, I'm taking him up on his deal. All the neighbors down the street that I've talked to so far, 2 besides Jay, agreed. One, who has 2 sons, said that they might block off the start of the stream. It is a small outlet of a moderately sized creek, but it will probably be blocked off, not that hard. Jay said he can probably get the drum in place tonight, as his dad can help. Jay also has a sweet dog and definitely wants to protect it. I'm going to remove my plants from the soil nearby the stream. Also, for reference, in size of the stream, it's about 1 to 2 feet across. Truly just a stream. There's lots of obstacles and things that would probably filter out, but we definitely still have to be safe. Update 2. Big news, the neighbor's kids dammed up the stream at where it starts. It's a couple of pieces of woods, a branch or 2, and a lot of small rocks. There is still a tiny bit of water flowing, but is absorbed by the soil higher up before Crazy Neighbor. Jay got the drum out, but we turned out not to need it. There's water still in the pools in his backyard, and we plan to do a water test. Apparently, pH tests are sold in a store just 10 minutes away, so I will head there as soon as I finish this. Update 3. Jay's getting the pH test and an oxygen level test, but I don't know how oxygen levels would play into it. I'll look at responses and figure out what to do next. I will call authorities soon. Update 4. The water test, pH came lower than the creek water before Crazy Neighbor's house, a full 0.9 lower. Nitrates a bit higher, dissolved oxygen significantly lower. That's the only real changes in between the 2 tests. I wonder if she just poured a lot of vinegar. I think herbicides do change pH, but 0.9 is quite a bit, I think. Update 5. Big update. The makeshift dam broke and the water has been flowing down. But it's been slow. Crazy Neighbor complained to a neighbor up the street that she's on speaking terms with about me being a major a-hole for not letting her kids use my hot spring tub. She let it slip that she poured household vinegar in the stream as justice. The neighbor was also shown the contract for the pipes, and she said that she didn't even have it signed by me. She and her lawyer had signed it, but without any signature space for me. I thought that she forged my signature, but she didn't have any agreement, fraudulent or otherwise, on my side whatsoever. The neighbor similarly dislikes her, but their kids are friends, so she has to talk to her. I sent all the info to a local environmental charity that has contacts within environmental protection agencies. They usually deal with lakes and dumping, so this was in what they deal with regularly. The police were outside her house a couple of hours ago and took her to the station. She's back at her house now, yelling over the fence profanities while I'm having a coffee. I don't know if they arrested her and she paid bail or that she was just taken in for questioning or something. I know her brother-in-law works at the police station, but I wouldn't doubt that her family members have a strained relationship with her. I hope that she's stuck with a giant fine and or jail time. Her lawyer still hasn't served me regarding the pipes, and my lawyer is saying that she has no case whatsoever. Update 6. My power just went out in most of my house. I think she just flipped the breakers to annoy me. Going outside ASAP. Update 7. Crazy Neighbor did indeed flip the breakers. As far as I know, the security camera has an internal battery for some time after it's disconnected from the power, so I don't have to worry about her doing anything. While the government does its thing against my neighbor, I would like to do the most legal annoying thing I can do. Currently, I'm thinking about removing the piping and separating the original cost. I think I will send every piece individually through a local copy, print, and delivery shop. I know the owner, and I think he would find it to be hilarious and agree to it. The plan? Remove the piping from the ground and separate every piece into small plastic baggies and boxes. Bring to copy print delivery shop. Plan deliveries of each package every period of time over a long time that requires signage. Wait. Tip the copy print shop $100. What do you think? What else could I do? Update 8. I called the owner of the copy print and delivery shop, and he agreed to what I said in that post. I removed all the pipes from my yard and put them into bags. I didn't have as much plastic and boxes as I thought, so I'm paying extra for the owner of the copy shop to supply them. He just delivered the first one to Crazy Neighbor. I watched from the street, and her husband answered. He shouted for her, and she came up. I didn't hear any of the discussion, but she signed the delivery sheet, took the package of a single small corner pipe piece, and stormed into her house. She went up to the second-story window and proceeded to glare at me since. Still glaring as I sit on my couch while writing this. Working from home will be so nice for watching this. Update 9. Since my last post, there has been one more pipe delivery to Crazy Neighbor, and she is angry. She stormed over to my house after signing the delivery, which I thought she would stop doing, and banged on the door. I started recording my front door and opened. I'm not dumb enough to let her in. She starts shrieking about how I'm awful and that I had to keep the pipes installed as it was her property and that we had a contract. When I told her that the contract wasn't legal at all, she starts screaming at me. I stepped inside for a second and called the police with the door closed. She continues banging at my door. I don't open until a police car comes down the street. I tell the police that I don't want her ever to be on my property and that she is trespassing. They relay that to her. And she takes up the Hurt Old Lady Act. For reference, she's in her 40s. Crazy Neighbor tells them that my hot tub burned her youngest child and that I was luring kids in. By telling them to get out of your yard, apparently. I showed the police the camera footage and they asked her to come to the station with them. I'm assuming that she made some fake report, but I guess that will be another charge of lying to a police officer. I think that the officer, not her brother-in-law, believed me and saw that she was in fact a crazy neighbor. I saw her get back into her house and once again went up to the top window staring. I closed the blinds. I thought she would stop. Honestly, it doesn't bother me, but to my surprise, she crosses the street to the side of the hill. There's a slope on the other side of the street from the houses. There's more houses up the slope, and stares through my front window. I don't have blinds for that one, and was about to head to a different room when I see her trip backwards. There's a small ditch for runoff and land on her butt. She lets out an ungodly shriek. It wasn't that loud, but I like to say it was, as she storms back into her house. I feel at this point, with all of the stuff from my lawyer, from Reddit, neighbors saying that I am completely in the right and that Crazy Neighbor is insane, has made this more into entertainment than a scary situation for me. I have multiple locks arriving in a couple of days, and a new security camera from the side yard. If you have any legal suggestions, please tell me. If there's anything I should be aware of, please tell me. Update 10. I've been told that messing with Crazy Neighbor is probably not going to help out legally, especially with a restraining order. So I just told the copy shop owner just to deliver it all at once. I don't know if that's happened yet, but I'm fine not being looking when it happens. I will file a restraining order today. I don't know how it works, but I hope I can complete it today. No new news from Crazy Neighbor except Jay saying that she looked really mad. I know this isn't a big update, but it's an update on the situation. Update 11. Update 11. This happened last night and I was too tired to update after it. Crazy Neighbor's husband knocked on my door last night, alone. Crazy Neighbor wasn't there, so I answered it. He tells me that Crazy Neighbor is going through some things right now. Oh, so what? Don't make your problem someone else's. And some other stuff. He then asks me if I could let sleeping dogs lie. She did some stuff wrong, but she's a really great person. I told him that I would consider it. I'm not, but I didn't want to be in that conversation. I honestly thought that he would apologize about it, but making excuses like that is so pathetic. According to many of my neighbors, Crazy Neighbor's been like this for years. I think he's trying to cover themselves for the bomb they just planted. That's all. 3. I was walking my 3 dogs the other day. 3 medium-sized ones. On the way back home, one of them was walking super slowly, as she often does when she's tired or just feeling defiant. So I picked up my pace a bit to encourage her to follow. We usually walk them off-lead, when we're near home. And when I got to the end of my driveway, I stood still and gently nudged her with the side of my foot, literally a soft push to direct her toward the driveway. As she was starting to walk out to the road, she didn't move, which is typical for her, but eventually I let her off leash and she walked beside me all the way to the house with no issue. Here's where it gets weird. The next day, as I got home from work, my neighbor came rushing out of her house and confronted me. She said, "You kicked your dog." I was confused and said, "No, I nudged her slightly." She claims she saw it on her security camera that faces my driveway. I told her again calmly that I didn't kick her. She kept repeating, "Admit it, you kicked her." And she said she and her partner watched the video multiple times, and she said that they were going to call the police and report me. Great, they should go ahead and do that then. I'm sure the video will prove it either way. Then she took it a step further and said, "You were in your work uniform. How would your work feel about this?" Basically threatening my job over something that didn't happen, the way she was framing it. I stayed calm and asked to see the video. I watched it. It showed exactly what I said. I nudged my dog gently with my foot. There was no yelp, no reaction, no sign of pain. There was sound. My dog wasn't harmed or scared, just being her usual stubborn self. I repeated I didn't kick her, told them that if they felt the need to report it, that was their right. I then went inside. Since then, I've spoken to my managers at work just to be transparent in case anything comes up. I also contacted my vet for records because all 3 of my dogs are extremely well cared for. Regular checkups, vaccinations, great diet, everything. I'm honestly heartbroken someone would jump to conclusions like this, especially without even trying to have a reasonable conversation. Don't sweat her, there's psychos everywhere, there's no point trying to understand them. She's been like this plenty of times before, screaming at us instead of just asking us or saying please. Banging on our doors due to noise our other neighbor is making. It radiates. My husband, at the start of moving here, popped his foot up on a fence to tie his shoelace, obviously not thinking. She comes out screaming, bringing papers. It's her fence, and understandably we just said, "Oh, sorry." She carries on shouting and throwing threats, saying I'll get my husband. At that point, my husband just says F off. Because it was getting really stressful and she was threatening us, so we just stopped speaking to her. Was always quiet and polite as can be, then today she did the above. She searched her cameras to find something on us. She didn't want a discussion, just wanted to harass. Neighbor from hell. Well, they can send the bitch right on back there. That was a Hellfreezer's note, not the OP. 4. Context. We live in a 4-unit building. Our neighbors live between 2 neighbors. We're apartment 1, they are apartment 2. And their other neighbor is apartment 3. Friday, between 5 and 10 p.m., he was blasting country music as if he was in a country bar. I was tempted to call the cops once 10 p.m. hit, but my husband has his phone number, so he texted him to turn it down, and he did. Saturday at 11 a.m., he blasts music again, only this time he left his home 2 minutes after turning it on. After an hour, we think apartment 3 reported it to the landlord, because we received a text blast saying to be mindful of the noise and no loud music or noise is allowed. 2 hours pass and the music isn't turned down because they're not home, obviously, so the cops show up knocking at their door. The officer made his way to our door asking about them, and I mentioned they turned it up and left. He asked if we had their phone number and we gave it to him. He came home in a short amount of time and turned the music down. He obviously thought we were the ones that called because we have his phone number and apartment 3 does not. Sunday, I see a policeman walk up to our door, so I open it, and he opens with, "Come on, what's with the dirty diapers and dead birds being thrown at the neighbor?" I was so upset and tried to explain that it was not us, but he wouldn't even let me finish a sentence. The officer was being super rude and not trying to figure out the situation. He was saying he had video evidence of the diaper being thrown from our side, and I asked to see it, and he refused. He just kept asking me to pick up the dirty diaper. I went to pick it up and show the officer that the type of diaper in their yard isn't even the brand that we have in the house. Then he started being nice and understanding, and listening and apologizing. I told him we'd get cameras set up, and we did. My husband sees the neighbors walking out after all this happened, so he went to talk to him and tell him we weren't the ones that called the police, and we wouldn't be calling the police unless it was an emergency, and don't want to be handling these situations through the police because they can use their time better with other issues. And that if he has an issue, he can call or text my husband directly, but the neighbor was insistent that we were the ones that left the diaper. And he said he personally saw it fly over the fence from our side, and mentioned that the landlord and the police officers said it was us who called, but that's impossible. If that was the case, then we would have called the cops at 10 p.m. that first night, but we texted him directly. My husband mentioned it was apartment 3, and the neighbor denied it, saying no, because I get along with apartment 3 just fine. So he doesn't get along with us? The only explanation for the dead bird is they have 2 cats in one tiny cage outside for 8 hours. And I'm sure they get hungry and desperate and bored, and they probably killed it. It's hard to fathom that they would go to such great length to plant a dirty diaper in their yard and blame it on us for vengeance. But you never know with people these days. That's the worst case scenario. He even tried saying it was my mom who did it. She has no motive for that. We wouldn't do that even if we absolutely hated someone. It's gross and barbaric. Another logical scenario is that maybe it was apartment 3's kid, but they refused to believe that because they supposedly personally saw it come from our side. Anyway, we have cameras now, so if anything comes up, we can have proof it wasn't us. Hellfreezer's note: if he's going to be accusing you of calling the police on him anyway, regardless of what you say, just call the cops whenever there's an issue. 5. I've been dealing with some bad neighbors for 3 years now. I thought I'd share my story both for entertainment value, but also ask, what would you do differently in my situation? The context behind the Neighbours: an old man lives there who had a wife that passed away before I moved in. Now some younger people from the projects who aren't related to him take advantage of him and live with him rent-free. How they met, I don't know. Despite the less than reputable characters that live with him, the old man is the biggest thorn in my side. My house is situated further back from the road than theirs. I can see into their backyard from my door. The old man likes to drive into his yard and pull up to his front door to unload groceries so he doesn't have to walk as far to take them in the house. I understand that part. The problem is he pulls down my driveway, then across my yard to get to his front door. It kills my grass and leaves ruts in my yard. The next time I saw him outside, I asked him to stop driving in my yard, and he said he would. But he kept doing it. A second time, I asked him to stop, and again it didn't stop. After the third, I was angry, so I went to his house and pounded on the door, but nobody answered. I went home, wrote an angry note, and package-taped it to his door, threatening to call the police if it happened again. Surprise, it happened again. So after the 4th time it happened, I went to the police, and the police told him to stop it, and he did. To this day, he hasn't driven in my yard, thank goodness, but the story doesn't end here. After my trouble with them, I put Ring cameras up on my property, and last month my cameras caught something baffling. He dumped a big box TV in my property. I have a huge yard and a lot of land. I even own some woods. He has a fenced-in yard and also owns some woods. He rode his lawnmower into my front yard, down my side yard, and into my backyard, all the way to my woods, and dumped a box TV back there. It wasn't even 3 feet into the woods. You know, rather than leave it by the curb for the garbage company to recycle for free, he had to get rid of it on my property. The audacity. So naturally, I took a picture of the TV and pulled the recordings from my cameras and took it to the police. The police are charging him with littering and forcing him to remove the TV and dispose of it properly, as well as trespassing him from my property. He'll be hit with criminal mischief if he sets foot on my property again. There was one morning last year where I woke up to go to work in the morning. There were like 10 local police cars and state cops all outside his house. Here, the people from the projects that were living with him were dealing drugs out of his house, and they were doing a bust on them. Everyone but the old man was arrested, and they just got let out of jail this month and are back in the house. I really just need to move. It's a shame because I live in such a nice neighborhood. It's the reason I even picked the house, the location. I've talked to my other neighbours about the bad neighbours, and they said everything was fine before the old man's wife died. But now he almost seems like he has dementia, and is being taken advantage of by some bad people. Now I have drug dealers and trespassers right next door. Hey everybody, and that was Naughty Neighbours 44. Thank you very much for listening. And big thanks to everyone who allowed me to use their stories. Please consider liking the video and subscribing if you haven't already done so. If you would like to support the channel, my Patreon is available. That is linked in the description. $1 or more a month is very helpful and I appreciate it. There is also a link to my merchandise store on Teespring. Okay. Let's move on to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, have you ever changed your mind about something you disliked as you've gotten older? For example, I have recently started buying fresh tomatoes to put them on sandwiches and things. And I'm rather enjoying them. I just make sure I get rid of most of the gunk if I can. I currently have one of the big chunky boys in the fridge for a thing I'm going to make tomorrow. It's not like one of my regular go-tos, but even if I'm in stores and I see a sandwich or something with on it, I'll buy it if it's got the tomato on it. Mostly because I'm trying to eat healthier and tomatoes are good for you. It was never about the taste for me, it was always about the gunky texture that comes with the tomatoes. So, yeah, tomatoes. Oh, also, I never used to like tea until, it's probably been 15, 20 years by now, but I've become, over the years, come to just really appreciate different teas, so I've always got a few different ones in stock now. Let me know what you think in a comment below, and before we go, we'll take a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And this one came from Naughty Neighbours 42, and it was, what was the last album you listened to? And today's answer comes from, let's see, I Am Blackthorn. Last album, just yesterday, Cliff Richard, Vinyl. Bought it a long time ago, specifically for the We Don't Talk Anymore and A Little in Love. It's so funny. Today is going to be Todd Rundgren. I'm not familiar with that artist. Sends me back to the days before life kicked the stuffing out of me. Thank you very much for your answer. I am Blackthorn, and remember, when life kicks the stuffing out of you, it's alright to take your lumps now and again, but you have to get back up and then kick the ever-living crap out of it. Because life is a little bitch, and it works for you. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.